Well, I have the pleasure of having with me Ehud Ben-Zavi, who in 2025 is the SBL president. Ehud, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Now, one of the great things an SBL president does is to give a presidential address. I'm sure you've probably finished writing your address already. So can you tell us what this is about?
Well, will be about how to think of our field, how to imagine our field in better shape than
Okay.
now.
Okay. That's a good enough preview. We want to look forward to hearing that address and reading it. Some get to hear it in person, others get to read it. Unfortunately, we won't get a chance to record it, but maybe somebody will slip a recording somewhere. But you have been in this field of biblical studies for a very long time. What attracted you to biblical studies in the very first place?
Well, I see myself originally, and still, I'm an historian.
Okay.
I'm a historian of ancient times. And I try to understand the production of books, society, in a period that I thought was very important, which is the Persian period in Jerusalem, and a period out of which came the texts that form part of the Hebrew Bible today, with minor changes and additions and perhaps deletions. But in general, the text that came, the core of what is the Hebrew Bible came from that time. So I'm interested in socio-anthropological approach and understanding society as a whole, and the role of agents like this literati about I talk in this society.
Okay. So that's a unique way of getting at Hebrew Bible. And when I say unique, not too many people understand it, because people think, okay, you start at Genesis, and that will help you make sense of it. You are one of those who kind of go to a historical source where things get started, and that's kind of in the middle of the book. What has been your experience trying to get people to orient their thinking of, rather than the logical progression from Genesis back down through it, to think more of a historical way and then expand and explore around the canon?
Well, my point is people. It has always been people.
Mm-hmm.
And people reading books. People reading texts. What does it do for people reading texts? So when I work in prophetic literature, I'm still working on that. I talk a lot about rereading and the act of rereading, and how a person reads text. What others, when you read a text, you have to bring a world of knowledge. Otherwise, you cannot read the text.
Right.
And it's not just the language, it's concepts, images. And these allow you to read the text. So my point will be always try to focus on how the text is being read and what does it do to the group. And in most cases, the readers, in the time I'm talking, since these texts have a long history of production and development, the readers are also the composers, the redactors, etc.
Yeah. So you're imagining this very lively, productive space for the text, rather than just a flat, static thing. It's written by one person, it's there, and the community has it, and it just exists forever.
Well, the first thing is, I personally don't care so much about what the author had in mind.
Yeah, right.
What I care is how people imagine that author, imagine the meaning that author.
Yeah.
And this has been in biblical studies in general actually a key point.
Yeah.
Because let's say Calvin and Rashi had the same text, exactly the same Hebrew text, and both knew Hebrew well. And they understood the text completely different. They had two different texts.
Right.
The Genesis of one is not the Genesis of the other.
Mm-hmm.
But all the graphemes are the same.
Yeah.
There's no difference.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I focus in the text as read, as understood,
Mm-hmm.
and as evolving when communities
Mhm.
read. It's true,
Yeah.
I focus on a particular period
Mhm.
of time, but my approach really relates to any period. Anyone can use it
Right.
for any other period.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's what I'm thinking. That you present a great model for one period, and people could just multiply that over
Sure.
time, even up to the present.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I never claim that the most important period is the period
Is
I
right.
did.
Yeah.
No.
Or the first or original, whatever
Yeah.
that might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my claim is that we have to understand agents reading. The historical agents are always people reading the text, and the only text that these people have is the text they have read.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And as they understood it to be.
So your, as you describe your scholarship, I'm also getting the sense from you of your interest in communities. Now, that may very well explain why you have belonged to several different associations. Can you tell us, apart from SVL, which other biblically aligned associations you've been a part of?
Well, I have been for decades member. I'm very active in the Canadian Society of Biblical Studies, and I serve as vice president and president. And I still participate in meetings, and I'm very active in this society. I'm very active in the European Association of Biblical Studies. I have gone to, I think, all the meetings except the one since the second meeting, which was the big first meeting. The first meeting was a relatively small meeting in Copenhagen. I was invited to the second meeting. And since then, I have always been there in one way or another. I have been president of the European Association of Biblical Studies. I chair research groups. I'm still chair research group. And I have been always active there.
Yeah.
I have been always active in the Society of Biblical Literature. I have chair units, program units, several of them. Some of them continue up to today. I was among the people who established the Deuteronomistic History unit. I was the one who established with others. I was among a group who established the prophetic text and ancient context that continues up to today. By the way, I'm still connected to that group.
Okay, good, yeah.
I was active in the social anthropology, how it's called, social sciences or something like that. It's social anthropological models to deal with text. I have been in Chronicle, Ezra, Nehemiah since time immemorial.
Yeah.
So I have been active there, and I have been very active in the International Cooperation Initiative of the SBL for many years. And among other people, among those, I was one of those who found it, and so it developed.
Yeah. Yeah. So all of that is the programmatic work that you have done. Very rich, very healthy contributions. But you've also done some leadership too within SBL.
Yes. Well, I was, I'm now, this is my 8th year in council, and I served now as president, I was vice president. I did quite a lot of work. I'm also part of this concept that we should take care of professional associations at all levels. National, regional, global. I have to say a person who influenced me in that way was Gene Tucker, who was a former president of the SBL. And he instilled in me that sense the professional associations are extremely important for the field. And we should take care of them and work for them, develop them, that the field requires that.
Yeah.
And he was my supervisor, so in some way I'm one of his sons.
Sure. Yes. Yes. The little I don't know if it's an apocryphal story, was that you just went through Emory University and finished your PhD in a record time. Is there any validity to the 3 year
Well,
completion story?
Well, actually, it's,
It's shorter
the
than
3 years. The 3 years is because I missed I missed convocation by a few days, just a
Okay.
few days. Actually, it was 2.
Oh my!
And I actually was 2. The entire thesis was I defended the thesis 2 years after I came. And was not a bad thesis, got published, and people still talk, comment on that, refer to it. So probably was not that bad.
Yeah.
And it was only the 2 years.
Yeah. So I mean, that advice from Gene Tucker seems very solid, and I guess you would believe that advice still has merit today when you look around at what's happening in academic circles.
Yes. And actually, it kept me thinking all these years. Of course, I didn't do that because he said
Yes, right.
obviously.
Yes, sure.
But I think that in some way, professional associations are the medium that allow us to flourish.
Yeah.
We have to meet other colleagues. We have to exchange ideas with other colleagues. We grow by exchanging ideas with other colleagues. And each professional associations, some have narrow mandates, others have larger mandates. All of them, in one way or another, make us grow as scholars. Without professional associations, without this infrastructure, will not be able to do anything as we do now.
Yeah.
It's, so I see that as the medium. Of course, like any medium, we can use that in multiple ways. You can flourish there or you can languish there, but if you prefer to do that. But in general, my idea is that any field, and particularly our field that is so diverse, requires associations.
Yeah.
And these have to be, all of them have to be thriving. One of the things that I found very important for SBL, and I like very much, and I talk with other people through the years, is that the mission statement is further biblical studies, not further the SBL.
Yes,
We don't
right.
exist in order, professional associations don't exist in order to further themselves.
Yeah.
They exist to further the field in all possible ways. And because they exist for that purpose, they are really the necessary medium for our scholarship.
Yeah. So this sense of community that I think I hear you resonating in many different ways, it requires a lot of effort in these days, because we kind of get a sense of, let's be our own individual superstar, or let's chart our own thing or the other. How do we maintain, if you have ideas, that vibrant community, that our professional association of SBL then becomes that strong space to build people?
Well, it's first, let me say, I'm well aware of these individualistic tendencies, and what is there for me, and I'm too smart to be sitting with you, and all this kind of nonsense.
Sure.
I have absolutely no patience for any of it. Anyone who thinks that her or his scholarship is only his or her own is delusional. We all learn from others. We all build on the work of others. We learn and we develop in a constructive way our own theories when we talk to others. Whether they agree with us and even more when they disagree with us.
Sure.
The idea that you are alone, just a shining star, unrelated to anyone in the field, is nonsensical. It's egomaniac, but it's also nonsensical. And I think that is something that every single person has to take to heart, okay? You are one among many others in a interesting and all ever-changing system of communication and growing together. Our scholarship is a scholarship we develop together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is key. Now, how to develop? Well, there are plenty of problems, of course. Some are logistical. Some come from the fact that some of us are in privileged positions and others are not.
Right.
Some are related to a tendency to work in small silos and never look out, which in some way is perpetuated through our own experience, in the sense of we are taught to do that, we are socialized in that way. But I think we have to grow a bit beyond that. I think the more there is a consciousness that we are dependent on each other for our own research, never mind our own teaching, but even for our own research, is key.
Yeah.
And the more there is an awareness like that, there will be a tendency to try to find solution to logistical problems, to have a system that is more inclusive, that allows more people to be participate, and respect for the other. Very simple, and in some cases we lack there.
Yeah. So I want to see how much of a visionary you are. When I say visionary, I mean how much of the future you're thinking about, and you know, kind of paying attention to where we are currently and what is possible. Can you say, hey, here's what SBL may or may not look like, or this work in biblical studies? I think a more appropriate question in the future.
But I think you should come to the presidential address.
Very good. That's a great teaser, and I'm glad that you put it out that way. So don't say a whole lot more about that. So we know what you're giving us.
But I will talk in general about the field.
Yeah.
Not so much precisely about the SBL, but how our field should look.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to have conversations, like serious conversations about that.
Yeah. My sense, of course, is these years ahead are going to be moments of serious reflections in many disciplines, because the ground is changing, and so we will look forward to the ideas that you will put forward to help us, you know, continue or even start that conversation in the future.
Yeah, you know, change always exists.
Yeah.
Okay, when I look back at how our society was 15 years ago, was very different.
Yeah, yeah.
Never mind 25 years or 30. When I think of research done in the 70s, today it sounds weird. Some of it, of course, some of it is relevant as it was at that time.
Right.
But some of the research sounds a bit weird to us.
Yeah.
The field has changed a lot.
So let me ask you, can you remember your first SBL meeting?
Yes, I remember that.
What year was it?
Was I think give me 1988.
1988. Okay.
I think was
quite a
88.
bit. But what is memorable about that? What here you are, this young person, very enthusiastic.
Well, I was at that time a graduate student. Was my first paper.
Oh, you presented it.
I presented. The first time I came to SBL, I presented a paper.
Yeah.
And I presented that paper. I remember that I was quite nervous, like any graduate student giving the first paper.
Yeah.
On top of that, of course, I was thinking of my ability in English. Yeah, I can manage questions, but
Yes.
certainly not my mother tongue. And my English now is much better than it was at that time.
Yeah.
And the joy of giving the paper, and the joy of answering the questions, and feeling good about that. And then responses of people who came to talk to me after that. Was a marvelous experience.
Yeah.
Of course, I still remember the nervousness, and to an extent, in some ways, I think back and I said, I would love to have this nervousness, to have this energy. When you get to, I don't know, your 200 paper, you are not that nervous.
But what struck me about what you said was the joy you felt. Was the joy sustained? So at the 200th paper, are you feeling joy in the same way, or even still have joy?
I have joy when I present a paper, when there is a good discussion.
Yeah.
I have less joy when there is no answer. Or, okay, next one.
No questions asked. Let's move on. So obvious. We don't need to question it.
For the most part, I get quite a lot of responses after the paper. Not in the session itself, but after the paper. And there is still joy. I try now to give less papers because of an obvious reason. There are so many slots in any program. And I don't need a paper for my CV. And there are graduate students, younger colleagues, or not younger, but junior colleagues who really need a paper. And I think people at my stage in my career should not take the slot of others. So if I get invited here and there, I will say yes, but in general, I think it's time for others to present papers, just like I had a slot when I was a graduate student.
Okay. So right now, because you're an active scholar, what are you doing? I mean, it may not be that you're working on a project, but you probably are. But what are you promoting? What initiatives are you kind of seeding with others as you come to this stage in your career?
I'm not talking about research for a moment directly. I am working on chronicles, and I have a series of papers that almost all of them have been submitted, and I hope to be out published soon.
Okay.
But there is one initiative that I'm keep trying to push and working with others in that regard, and it's the Cultural Central Text Initiative. And I think it's a very important initiative. The Bible is a cultural central text, has served as such for centuries, and has served like that among plenty of different groups who understood the Bible completely different, but still saw the Bible as a cultural central text for them. But it's not the only one. And there are a significant number of other culturally central texts in all societies. And by text, I don't mean necessarily something written. And these cultural central texts play roles in societies and create social structures and develop agency. You have the agency of the interpreters of the text. You have to explain why the interpreters of the text have the authority, and how they will explain, and who gives them the authority. All these kind of issues, of course, appear in all cultural central texts all over history. This cultural central text can be a constitution, like the US Constitution or the Bill of Rights in Canada, and but you still have people working on them and trying to get to the meaning, explaining why they get to this meaning, people accepting or not, discussing the whether authorial there is an authorial intention or not, whether you can get, whether it's relevant, how the text change its meaning always, but also remains the same as it were. And So all these dynamics are typical of all
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
central texts.
Yeah.
So my initiative, it's not mine, it's our group,
Mm-hmm.
uh, is try to convince several societies to have sessions that deal with this matter. So the idea is not to create another society and create
Right.
another silo, but to encourage or to plant seeds in multiple societies for this kind of approach. That
Yeah.
in addition to all the other things we do, we also pay attention to larger social, anthropological, historical issues related to these texts, the cultural central texts, to the interpretation, how they understood, who understands them, the rules of interpretation that exist in this or that. People can do comparisons. Of course, the point of social anthropological is many times, methods is many times to raise questions, to show a potential comparison and see, well, in this case went this way, in this case went the other, why is the difference, or why is similar despite all the other differences. Heuristical is very important. I think we have to collaborate with other groups. In another meeting I was involved, we discussed how in some ways native traditions and fulfill exactly the same role, and how things are managed in this context. There is plenty to do in that regard, and it's one of the initiatives that I think is long term, of course, but it's an important one.
Yeah. So this then can put biblical scholars in conversations with people from a vast number of different disciplines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes,
Yeah.
from people working in law
Mhm.
to people, and I was in a conference once there, to people in constitutional studies, to people working in Confucius studies, to people working in native traditions, to people working with art, art history. The number of, or of course, people dealing with the Quran, with the Talmud,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Indian literature, Hindu literature. So there is a lot of material to that can be brought, and expertise from other areas. By the way, Shakespeare. Why not to bring
Yes,
Shakespeare?
certainly. Precisely. Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
tried to do in the Spiel actually that a few years ago,
Yep.
to bring Shakespeare into the discussion.
Yeah. No, this is rich, and it puts scholars in different disciplines and different areas in this very rich conversation, which is very needed today.
Is very needed, and will be very useful for us as faculties of humanities, arts, whatever we'll call them, evolve in the near future.
Yeah. Well, Ehud, I'm glad for this conversation. We are looking forward to your presidential address. And we expect it to be up to your very great, fine standards of your scholarship. So no pressure on you. No pressure there. But thank you for taking the time to sit with me and have this conversation. And we hope, and we want to wish you all the best as you continue working on that address, getting to that there may be some nervousness when you present it, but mostly that there will be joy.
Yes.
At the end of it.
And at the end of all what we do must be an element of joy.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Pleasure.